Wow, it's February already. That means January is gone. Some
Mm.
people say that January is slow, but is it really slow? I think it depends on what's happening in your life. It's slow for some people because probably they spend all they have in December, and now it's hard for them to go through the days, the 31 days of January. They can't wait for it to end so that they can get their salary or allowance. And they have another reason why January is slow for some people.
Mm. January is slow because maybe some they are looking forward to visiting their loved ones the next month,
Okay.
or maybe graduation. Like yesterday, some people graduated and also then
Mm.
that's build up waiting for something important. It's just when you're having a project, something to look forward to. You understand?
Yes.
Like we've discussed our last episode, looking forward to something. When
Mm.
you have something to look forward to, the time just it's just so slow. Like you can't wait. You can't just wait. And
Yeah.
like finances is something that makes January extra fast for people because
Okay.
people are low on finances after spending
Extra slow, I
extra.
think
Yeah,
it's
but this
make it.
particular January, yeah, surprisingly, people said
It
is the
was fast,
fastest
but
January of all time.
what could be their reason?
I don't know, but looking at it, for me too, I think
It was how
the
fast
times are faster than they
these
usually are.
days.
Yeah, these days are
It's
faster than.
because of your age. Someone in
Yeah.
secondary school, I don't think they think the time is moving fast because they can't wait to graduate. And so to them, the time is even moving slow. But you that you're already a graduate, you are of age, and then there are things that you need to accomplish. You want the time to take its time, and to you it's rushing. So I think maybe it's one of the
And it's
reasons.
probably true because as children, kids, the times was slow. In fact, it was
Yeah.
slow. We couldn't wait for things to come, and we're like, when will it be? When will it be? I can still
Yeah.
remember when I was looking at my graduation year when I was in primary three. On my when I was going to go to university, I was like, would this day ever reach? The time was looking so strange, like the year 20 this. Be like, wow, so a year can sound like this. So, but
And now
now,
we're in 2025. But
yeah.
surprisingly to me, since apart from 2020, the next year to sound normal in my lips is 2025. So that's a good sign. I hope, because even though 2020 did not really go out well for most people everywhere in the world, but I think 2025 will turn out great.
Hopefully.
And look, talking about expectations, you know, when you're fasting, you're expecting for some people when they are fasting, their concern is not on the prayer points they're praying or the answers. They are waiting for 6 o'clock to reach or 3 o'clock, whatever time they are going to break. And so, because of that, the time will just look like it is taking its time.
Yeah.
Time is taking our time. And January will be really slow for such people because most denominations around here they pray and fast in January. And if you're someone that just finished your prayer and fasting, congratulations to you. I hope now you start reaping the rewards of your labor. Yep.
Some people are still fasting. They are doing 100 days.
Wow.
So good luck to them.
Really, good luck to them. Good luck to them. I hope they and I pray that they have the strength to put in as much effort as they're supposed to put in whatever they're doing, because fasting can take out of your strength.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes you may not all the time though. You know, man shall not live by bread alone, but sometimes when you're fasting, you don't have the strength to do hectic stuff. And with all the New Year resolutions that people have put in or have arranged for themselves, can they be able to live up to those New Year resolutions when they are fasting for 100 days? But God is your strength, right? There's grace.
About that fasting and not doing hectic stuff,
Yeah.
I'm not sure. There's sometimes you don't even eat. You forget that you have not eaten if you have an important task to do.
Yeah.
But then because of that mindset of fasting, then it programs you to you don't work to your normal capacity. You be like there's something missing.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think, okay, so you think it's a
yeah,
mindset
yeah.
thing,
All
right?
is just mindset. All is just mindset.
But maybe for some people, it's the fact that it's over a long period of time, and it's not just a day of not eating. You
Well,
can easily forget one day of not eating, and then you'll be working, and then it's later in the day that you eat. But when it is like 30 days now, reaching to 40
well,
days,
if it's the stretch dry fasting, those that don't eat at all. We usually break around 6, break 7. So that's just like it's a normal day for majority of people, most people.
Really?
Like even okay, let me not say me, but me sometimes.
Okay.
Like I just eat from morning when I'm leaving, and then when I come back in the evening I eat. So it's almost like normal fasting time because I don't even drink water or anything.
Okay.
So and I feel normal. I do my normal work with
Wow.
everything I have to do.
Wow.
So is when you don't eat at all, then we say, okay, maybe
Okay,
you're
but
having
for
extra.
me and some people that I know, this is not normal to us. But the beautiful thing about fasting is that many people believe there is grace. And talking about grace, guys, at the end of the day, some people not put in as much effort as they need to in doing things because they believe that they have prayed and fasted. They have prayed, they have fasted, and so grace is there to make things turn out great. Which is, yeah, yes, they are right. But that doesn't mean that you don't put in the effort you're supposed to put in. You're supposed to put in the work, but they'll say grace will cover for them. They don't need to put as much effort as they need to. They will not do their best. They'll start compromising on their standards, on their quality, because grace will cover. And then on the other hand, we have some people that because there is grace, they believe they can do away with junk food, they can do away with these movies that they keep on binging on YouTube. They can do away with all those things that they have been struggling with in the past, but to no avail. Now they can do it because they have prayed and fasted and there's grace. So they can do away, they can compromise on those comforts, those luxuries, those junk foods. They can compromise on even sleep sometimes so as to put in the extra effort they need to put in to get their goals. So you see, they're like two separate
Disparities.
roads, but all is engineered by grace. So which path are you taking? Which path are you treading on in this year 2025? And before we continue in our discussion, let me not forget to welcome you. You are in Tribe Haven here. Welcome to Tribe Haven. I'm Blessing Wash, and with me here is
Isaac Dasa.
yes. So talking about today's discussion, our topic is, if you have guessed it already, can you even guess it by what we've just said? Well, if you're yet to, the topic
We
is
discussed a lot of things.
the topic is compromises on the road to success. So 2025 is going to be successful, right? And most of us expect it to be the most successful year we've ever lived so far. Yes, we expect all the years to keep on getting better and better, right? So success is at the end of the tunnel, right? At the end of the road. But newsflash, you will reach a junction in this road to success that you will be presented with the option to compromise. And it will be very important for you or for us to know what a compromise is. What a compromise is, because it's sounding like I said what a compromise is, but it's what a compromise is. It's very important for us to first of all know what it is, because I feel like we have a biased or a skewed definition to that word. Anytime we hear it, it's negative. But this is something that you have to meet on your route to success. Should you totally avoid it? What is it, first of all? What is compromise? So, to you, Isaac, what's compromise?
Okay, my own idea of compromise is
Yeah.
changing your pattern or changing the method that you're used to, the method that works because of achieving another goal, which is different from what you're used to. You understand?
Okay.
If you want to reach a different road, you follow a different method. So
Yeah,
I think that's my idea of compromise, and it's so broad, different topics,
Okay.
different areas that we compromise in. You understand? So a different change, like we were having discussion earlier, it can be increasing your standards,
Yeah.
it can be reducing your standards. It's all compromise.
Okay. Yep. Because they say insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
Yeah.
You're expecting 2025 to be better than 2024, so you do things differently. You're expecting results this year, new heights you want to accomplish. You want to experience divine speed. You need to do things differently. And any change in the standard or the way of doing things, if you're changing your standards, to achieve a certain goal, it's a compromise. I don't know whether it's super clear.
That's
So
fair enough.
any change in your standards in order to achieve a certain goal is a compromise. Change from the normal way of doing things, that's a compromise. So when you're changing, you can either go up or go down. So that leads us to types of compromises. We have the good and the bad. It's not always bad, guys. Compromise is not always bad. So whenever you're increasing your standard, that's a positive compromise, a good compromise. But when you're reducing your standard, that's a negative compromise. And I think most times when we hear the word compromise, we tend to lean towards that part of reducing your standard, but sometimes it's upgrading your standard. And a lady said that she was able to see the fact that the word compromise has another word in it, and that was super interesting to me. She said there's the word promise inside the word compromise.
Yeah.
And she had her own explanation because she believes that a compromise is something that you do to help you get the promise. Like you feel like the promise itself is not enough. That was how she was explaining it. So compromise used to happen when you feel the need to do something in order to aid the promise, not just relying on God and his timing. You're not trusting that the promise will come, so you do something, and so you now attach something. You want it to come.
Come to the promise.
Yes, you want the promise to come, so you now end up compromising.
Now, yes, God has his promise. Even the devil has his promise. That also,
Okay.
Yeah. So you can compromise for God. You can also compromise for the devil. Is that also?
Okay, but in the case of Abraham and Sarah, now they were still trying to compromise for God, but it was a negative compromise. To them, they feel like they were trying to help God make the promise come quicker, or is it quickly?
Now, from Abraham's life, you can also bring out two different, both the positive and the negative compromise.
Okay.
Do you believe so?
Yeah. How about he's a man of faith, yes. But in this instance of them waiting on the Isaac, waiting on in this instance of them waiting on the promise, which was Isaac, they were not ready to, like, they did not really trust in God's timing. They were feeling like they needed to speed up the process. There was a need for them to do something so as for the promise to come, and at the end of the day they ended up with something that was not the promise. So when you take the negative compromise route, you end up with something that is inferior to the promise. You don't end up with the promise. So anytime you take the negative route, the negative compromise is not the promise. So to me, compromise is something you do to get the promise, but when it is a negative compromise, you get the inferior version. But when it is a positive compromise, you get the promise, which in this case could be your goals, your expectations, the prayers that you've been praying for in this prayer and fasting season, and everything. They are the promise. So you will need to compromise. Choose the positive compromise.
What are some of the positive compromises of my acts?
Okay, like now compromising on sleep. I know sleep is very important, and they tell us that you need at least 7 to 8 hours. But sometimes you need to know the times and seasons. I need to know yourself. Like to me, I'm someone that loves to sleep. I prioritize sleep so much. So I think a positive compromise will be me compromising on my comfort of sleep.
Like on that, so I was trying to make a point on that. Like there was a discussion I was listening to. They said doctors said 8 hours is needed to be healthy, to live a good life, to live at peace. But all around the world, there's no doctor that sleeps 8 hours. The people that are giving the advice, like they have to be on shift. They have shifts, so it's not possible for you to sleep complete 8 hours.
If there's a promise you need to get, then you need to compromise that 7 hours or 8 hours of sleep. It's not every night, and I seriously need that advice. Like what we are saying, I'm not just dishing out advice to you, I'm also dishing it to myself, because that issue of sleep, you need to compromise on food. Even this fasting is a compromise people are making. They're compromising their food. for a greater good. They believe there's something, there's a promise at the end of the day that they want to get. So that's a positive compromise. Somebody like me, I need to compromise on sleep. Sometimes you need to wake up to pray at night. It's very important in order for you to get all the promises that are yours. You need to compromise that sleep and compromise that junk food that you love so much. Compromise that sugar is not good for you anyway.
Now, why do you hate junk foods?
Because they are bad.
Who says they're bad?
They are bad. They are bad. They are called junk for a reason. Like we throw junks in the dustbin. So
Okay.
yeah.
Junk files in the system, they are not too bad.
They're occupying space.
They could be useful, they have their uses.
No,
But I think excess, it's just when it's excess. Like sugar is not necessarily bad. That's the lie that have been feeding us. There
are different types of sugar, like
Yeah.
the added sugar, you
Generally.
don't really need it. But sugar that is from like carbohydrate, eating like real
all
food,
sugars,
and then it is a carbohydrate, you're going to get sugar at the end of the day. But the added sugar, like you have so much already from the food you're eating, you don't need to
true.
add it.
True.
If we can avoid it, then it will serve us
Just a
more
little,
than the sweetness. The sweetness
just teaspoon.
you can do without it.
No need of carrying the whole
And you
bucket.
can even
cup.
do without the two and the teaspoon.
It's a little teaspoon is good.
Well,
A
start
little-
gradually, yeah. Let's not be like the people that have bombarded themselves with too many New Year resolutions and it is weighing them down, and as a result, January is super slow. But now we're in February. February is that month that if you don't take time, all those New Year resolutions will start going down the drain. February, or is it February?
February.
February is a good time to do some check and balances, okay? So that you know the things you need to compromise on. You see why we're bringing this topic here. So,
Yeah. If I may ask, what are some of the negative, like, we are still coming to that, some of the negative compromises that someone will take if they ask,
there are plenty now. This one, negative compromises, otipopo, like, it's everywhere now. Negative is easy. You know, sometimes, like, it's so easy to do what is wrong than to do what is right. So it's quite easy to compromise in the negative direction. It's easy to just drop the standard, well, for some people, but it's super hard for others to drop their standard. I remember our conversation when well, that's not it. So but it's not easy for some people to drop their standards, but for others it's super easy because it requires so much effort to live up to a certain standard. So when all you need to do is to let go of that standard and do less work to get your desired result, it's quite easy. Exam malpractice, for example, is a negative compromise. Instead of you to put in the work to study and really understand the concept, you're taking the easy way out, because at the end of the day you still get the certificate, right? But you're not getting the knowledge, because, and seriously, exam malpractice is a huge disservice to yourself. In the day of AI, you don't need to cram things. You need to build the skill of understanding and being able to use what you know to create solutions, because AI is already there to provide you with the information. So what next are you going to do with this information? That's the part your brain is supposed to be good at. But when you're relying on Expo, you're not doing all those mental gymnastics. So that's one example. If you're a student out there, okay. And then now another negative compromise, well, backstabbing or stealing other people's ideas and claiming that it's yours. Not waking up in the night to pray, not putting in the hours so as to make sure that what you're doing is of great quality as a tailor, not putting in the hours to make the dress so as to deliver on time. You rather tell the person, please come back another day, rather than just putting in the effort and then delivering the day you said you're going to deliver. And we have so many of these instances in Nigeria. So many people in the civil service space, they are really compromising a lot of the time, and sometimes Some people, they don't want to steal, but because everyone around them, their co-workers, are stealing money from the government and they say it's national cake, they are pressurized into doing it, and it's super not easy to stand on your ground in such situations. So there are so many instances that we compromise negatively. And that's why I'm more focused on the positive compromise, because naturally when we hear the word compromise, it's even the negative one that comes to our mind.
And earlier we were saying there are a lot of compromises from the Bible, is that also? And we said it seems like even God compromised at one point or another in the Bible.
Okay.
Yeah. But since God is never wrong, it's a positive compromise. We take it as that.
Yeah.
Is that also?
We are not just taking it as that, but it is that.
Yeah, it is that, because
Yeah.
God is never wrong, of course.
Yeah.
Yes. So, like, and the issue of David, David was one person that received a lot of compromise, free pass.
We call it grace, right?
Yeah. Okay. So
grace and compromise, they work hand in hand. As earlier on I said, some people, because of grace, they put in less efforts because they believe grace will make things work out for them at the end of the day regardless. And some people, they put in extra effort because they know the grace is sufficient, they can do all things. So grace and compromise, they are twins.
but there's disparity between them also.
Yes. Yeah.
Because some people believe that there's grace to do anything they like and they can get away with it.
But grace doesn't mean that you don't get the consequences of your actions. It means God will be there with you even as you face the consequences of your actions.
Now, when I brought David's issue, he didn't face the consequences of the actions that he did.
Because grace was there.
Okay, so can you see the grace that gave consequences? He didn't receive the consequences of what he did in the Bible.
Well, we're not aware of any consequences, but possibly there were consequences. But the thing is, when it comes to God, in his dealings, we are all in a personal race. That's the very important thing we need to know. We need to note. He deals with us differently. And some people will say it's partiality, but it's not, because he knows where he's bringing you out from and where he's taking you to. Some of those things David was able to get away with is because of where he was coming from or where he was going to. Like the case of the communion that he took from the priest, and we know that it's not something that anybody would just do. It's because of where he was coming from. He was coming from a battle, right? And like God knows the process, the journey he's taking you through, and so he knows those things that are permissible to you, but to another person is not permissible to them. No
matter how we try to explain that, I can still call out people. There's a prophet that he tried to help another person in the Bible, right? He was trying to do good.
Yeah.
But because he broke a rule, even though it was for the reason of good, there are many examples like that we can still bring out, that they were still destroyed. You understand? But this particular person, no matter your intention, if God said something and you went against it,
but God did not speak to David directly saying you should not eat of this.
It was for everybody. It was for everybody, and he was in the know of it, but he went against it.
He asked, and the priest gave it to him.
Yes.
The priest gave it to him. So he was given the permission to eat it because the priest handed it to him.
Now, even the priest himself, if he did what the Lord did not command, the Lord would have struck him.
Yes. So that means God commanded it. That's why God did not strike him. I'm serious. You should not follow others. There are so many cases. Some people, they lived reckless lives, right? But they did not catch HIV. What another person that has been living a holy life, just one moment of loose guarding, and then you see the person with a serious disease. What's the explanation? God knows why he has been preserving those other people, because he knows their background. If you have to check some of them, maybe they're coming from a broken home, so many abuse, like they were abused right from young age, and so it is around them that made them the way they are. But someone that has, like, he was well brought up, his family, they instilled godly values in him, and then he now decide to just test the waters. God's grace has been there. It is His grace that made it possible for you to be in a good home, because you did not choose that home. And then you're not trying to take the grace for granted. You're not face the consequences. Them, God's grace is keeping them from that disease because of where they are coming from. But you, God's grace kept you in a good place and you're trying to run out of it. So like different strokes for different folks. Like we are all on different journeys. We are coming from different places, going to different places. The demands on each of our lives, they are different. And so what God is calling you to do is different from what another person He's expecting from that person. It's just different. And so we need to live in constant obedience, constant listening to what He's telling us. Don't follow the crowd, basically.
No, sorry.
And it's like we related, but
Yeah.
I hope you've learned something from this.
Yeah, there's some compromise that some people, you save time, you try to sleep, you try to do everything right to make sure something comes out. You understand? And then there are times where you do those things and they don't show forth.
The result?
Yeah, the result doesn't come forth. You understand?
Yeah.
So it's like, for how long can you stay on those things?
To keep on compromising your sleep.
Yeah. You understand? Like
Well, the thing is, it's not just doing things. You need to sit down and do check and balance. As we said, compromise is all about check and balance. If you try this, you compromise this, and you're not getting the needed results, and it's not really an instruction from God telling you to do this, then maybe you should.
If this is an instruction from God.
Oh, then continue by all means, because if you don't, that means you're taking the negative route, the negative compromise. You're trying to do something that will bring the promise quicker, and then you end up
Promise of
with
the devil.
yes, with an inferior thing. Yes, so no matter how long it is taking for the promise to come, stick to it. If not, it will be a negative compromise. And another thing that we can compromise that's good is comfort. Our brain loves comfort. It loves the familiar. The familiar is comfortable, right? So our brain loves it. We are in this, well, let me say it straight up. In this year 2025, we need to learn to compromise the familiar. Compromise on the familiar, because sometimes your promise is being packaged in an unfamiliar way. You are used to seeing the way your siblings are doing things, your friends are doing things, how their life is turning out, and your life timeline is like so different. It's unfamiliar to you, it's unfamiliar to everyone. You need to learn to compromise on that familiarity, because sometimes, because your life is taking a different turn from others, you start feeling left out, you start feeling frustrated, you are now tempted to compromise, the negative compromise, just so as to make your life look normal, and so as to get your promise, what your goals. Yes, that's the promise. And so I'm here to tell you, it's a strong message, and it's for someone, I believe it's also for me. Compromise on familiarity. And I have a story to share. This is a story time. Sit down and buckle up. Okay, so in our house we have a pawpaw tree, right? You know the pawpaw tree.
Okay, that one.
Yes.
Like you're supposed to
Yes. It refused to produce fruits, right? People were telling us to uproot it, many people. And like, people can be super audacious. So like, even though it's not producing fruit, but what's your problem with it that we should just uproot it? Thank God we did not uproot it.
Even Jesus said, uprooted your fruit once. That also
Because it is not bearing fruit.
yeah, so yeah,
but
you're right.
please give it a chance. This is a young pawpaw tree. Yes, by that age, other pawpaw trees, they usually produce their fruits. By that age, they have started producing, but that one was just there. People were saying, cut it off, uproot it. We gave it a chance, and thank God we did. Because to everyone's amazement, our pawpaw tree is now bearing fruits. Hallelujah. But it is not bearing fruits the way other pawpaw trees are bearing their fruits. Most pawpaw trees, the fruit is close to the main stem, right? But this one is very far, is coming out of some should I say sticks, but some tiny stems like that. I've never seen a pawpaw tree like this one though.
And a special one.
So it's a different species, and you can excuse the fact that you can excuse the late fruit production to the difference in the species, right? But you may not be correct.
Like,
This is where the juice is.
okay.
Yes. While it was growing up, my mom noticed some strange things were coming out of this pawpaw tree. It's not like any other pawpaw tree she has seen. What are these things? Some weird things. So she would pluck them off.
Okay.
When they come out again, she'll pluck them off until she got tired, or better still, the pawpaw tree got to a certain height that it was not easy for her to pluck them off. So she was waiting for them to grow more, like longer and downward, so it will be easy for her to now pluck it off. But at that point, that was the time we now started seeing fruits coming out of those things.
That means she was cutting up the fruits.
She was cutting off those wet stuffs that were supposed to bring out the fruits.
The wet stuffs
And
happen to be
everybody
fruits.
was saying, cut it off, cut it off. It's a barren tree, it's a male pawpaw tree, cut it off. Whereas the delay was all along caused by her, because she was trying to fix the pawpaw tree to look like every other pawpaw tree she knows. These things are wet stuffs. She was cutting them off. What's the
You know, this is your story. I have a mango tree that we had the same story with.
Okay.
The mango tree stayed for almost 3. It's an agric mango, so it's, after a year, it's supposed to produce. But this mango stayed 5 years plus. It didn't produce. So it started bringing out the dry leaves, and then my mom, so she started cutting the stuff off. I was like, "Ah, why are you cutting it off?" She said the fruit is ready to produce. They should just throw it out. It's wasting, it's throwing dirt, it's producing dirt. And can you believe? I said she should leave the thing, let's observe and know what's happening to it. And the dirt that she wanted to cut off, the remaining one that she left, that's the one that came and produced fruits.
So this is not an isolated case then. That means my
Yeah.
own story is not even an isolated case. It's something that is happening. And there's a lesson in this. Embrace your uniqueness. Let's just learn to compromise on this familiarity that we're used to. Things used to happen this certain way, so they must happen this certain way for me. No. Your fruits are hidden in your uniqueness. The longer you keep pushing away from your uniqueness, you're trying to be normal, you want your timeline to be the same with your sisters or your brothers or your friends' timeline, the farther you're pushing your fruits away. And the fruits are the promise. So you're pushing your promise away, you're extending the waiting period, and you will get even more and more frustrated. And people will tell you to cut it off, cut it off. It's a male pawpaw tree. This is not the route for you. This is not the pathway for you. This is a wrong career path. Leave this career path and go to the next. People will tell you that, not knowing that these strange things that are happening in your life, they are the things that will lead you to your fruits. Just learn to accept them. And those people that you think that they are all the same, you think that you're the only one that is different, they are all the same, they are all successful, they are all happy in their timeline, they are all the same because they are all unique. That's one thing. We are all the same because we are all unique. Don't forget the latter part. Because when you're trying to be the same, whereas you're trying to run away from your uniqueness, you'll never be the same with the rest. You will be different until you now accept your uniqueness. Because they are the same because they're all bearing fruits, right? They are the same because they're all happy in their timeline. Guess what? They are bearing fruits because of their uniqueness. You too, when you accept your uniqueness, you stop cutting off those weird stuff, those things that make it different, those things that are not normal in your environment but they are part of your life. When you stop trying to cut them off, you start bearing fruit as well. And guess what? Now you'll not be the same as them because all of you are bearing fruit. You're all the same because you're all unique. You're trying to say something?
I said there's also a disclaimer
Okay.
of sticking to your uniqueness.
Okay.
So it's not like a push to hold on to mediocrity, because like obviously this story that when you're talking about the tree that wasn't producing, I said Jesus also caused the trees. That also,
Yeah.
Jesus cannot be wrong,
Yes.
right? So there are also trees that don't produce fruit. Just like that tree that Jesus saw, it was time for it to produce, but
Yeah.
so what we
Everything
yeah
was perfect.
yeah
But in this case, the person we are trying to remove some weird stuff is not just in the delay alone, but there are certain things, unique things that we see about ourselves that we are trying to run away from. And because we are running away from them, that's what is making the delay to come. It's not just that we are not producing fruits, but there's a reason to it. It's because we are trying to run away from the uniqueness first. But if you're unique, but you're still not bearing fruits, and you have accepted your uniqueness, but you're still not bearing fruits, then you should check. There's need for a check and balance. But if you have been trying to run away from your uniqueness, trying to make sure that your timeline fits to the one that's familiar, and you're wondering why you're still not bearing fruit, then this message is for you. Relax, accept the uniqueness. Your fruits are hidden in it. You have reached 30 without getting married, and everybody is getting married at 25, and you're being frustrated by it. Instead of being frustrated by it, accept it, and then you now see fruits that will come out of it. There are things that maybe you're supposed to do in your singleness, and when you get married you may not be able to do them, or you need to start them now, and you can be relatable to those that are still single. Or if you start them now, that's the only way you can be able to continue with them when you're married. But if you don't start them now, you cannot start them when you're married. The longer you stay in your frustration, the longer you will not start those things, and the longer you don't do them, the more you're prolonging your marriage time, which is the promise that you're looking for. That's the yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. So, but if you're doing everything, you're okay with your uniqueness, but you're not bearing fruit, please check it.
yes, you should.
Do some compromise. At that point, you need
Positive
to compromise. Yes, always
compromise.
is still a positive compromise. Yeah.
So we just need to lay aside, like the Bible says, we should lay aside every weight that is holding us back. There are different kinds of weights. Apart from sin being a weight, there are things that they are not necessarily bad, but they are really stopping us from achieving. And also, like the sleep you mentioned. Is there any way they mention sleep as a sin in the Bible?
Well, a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands, then poverty creeps in.
Yeah.
If you want to be rich in 2025,
So
the little sleep.
poverty in itself is not a sin, but as you can see, the Bible painted it in a bad light.
Yeah.
It's not.
Bad light.
It's not. So there are things that they are not necessarily sin, but we need to.
You can be poor and still enter heaven.
Yeah, of course. But there are things that you will never enjoy.
Yes, and there are things you cannot do for God when you're poor. It's the truth.
Yeah. So you should just stand strong and always look forward, push ahead.
Yeah.
And the path of the just shined brighter and brighter. So I think there are bigger things to look forward to. So we should always stay hopeful no matter what.
Yeah. And use grace to push you forward, not to limit you. Grace should make you compromise positively, not negatively. Put in that effort, put in your best, don't hold back. Because Jesus said that them that are trying to, they hold back their life because they're trying to save it, they lose it. But those that give it all and are not scared to lose it, they end up gaining it. So I feel like some of us, we are not getting what we want because we are holding back so much. Let it go. If it is the sleep, sometimes let it go. If it is the food, let it go. Compromise on the sleep, compromise on the food. Food is good, sleep is good, but know when to compromise. It's very important to know your times and your seasons. So when it is time to compromise on some sleep, do that. When it is time to compromise on some food, do that. So
must be ready to make compromises.
Yes.
On the positive side.
Yes, positive compromise all the way throughout 2025. Grace is sufficient. You can do all things. So I think with that, we've come to the end of this episode. I hope you've learned something. And until next time, why only succeed when you can thrive? Bye bye.
Also like to hear their opinions of compromise.
Yes, please comment, drop your comments in the comment section. Like this video, of course, if you enjoyed it. Subscribe because there's more to come, and share with others that will find this helpful. Bye bye.
Bye.